So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about Japanese mimetics, and thank you very much for your kind introductions. Let me just, okay. So intermediate Japanese students may have learned some Japanese mimetic expressions such as bikkuri suru, to be surprised, and niko niko suru, to smile. However, the systematicity of Japanese mimetics is hardly ever taught or discussed in language classes. Even though a considerable understanding of Japanese mimetics has accumulated and is now available. In this lecture, so I will explain how systematic and worthy of serious linguistic study Japanese mimetics are. And I will also briefly touch on the similarities between Japanese mimetics and Korean mimetics and their implications. Lastly, I will point out the need to teach Japanese mimetics as a system rather than as a collection of disparate vocabulary. By the way, please keep in mind that when I say Japanese mimetic words in this lecture, I'm focusing on Tokyo Japanese. The patterns in various dialects have not been as systematically studied as in Tokyo Japanese. So there is a lot more to do, in fact, if you are interested. So here is the outline of the lecture. First, what is a mimetic expression? Then phonosemantic structure and phonological characteristics. And then how I noticed the systematicity. Other systematic features, discussion of semantic extensions, and then a brief description of Japanese and Korean mimetics, and finally, conclusion or takeaways. So what is a mimetic expression? Okay. The word mimetic expression is often used for what is known as giseigo gitaigo in Japanese. The term idiophone is used to describe similar ranges of phenomena in world languages for comparative purposes. Ideophones are broadly characterized as marked words that depict sensory imagery. So very many languages contain a lot of these sensory ideophones. And then this term idiophone is a useful expression to cover all these things. Now, Japanese and Korean are both well known for having an extensive system of mimetic expressions or ideophones. Simple expressions are given here. So, fusen ga pan to wareta in Japanese is a balloon popped with a light explosive sound. And then a very close counterpart of this in Korean is fuso ni pan tachosta. Okay, so mimetic expressions in these two languages constitute robust linguistic phenomena and have been discussed from various perspectives. They exhibit similar morphosyntactic properties. While their primary uses as adverbs, as shown here, they yield verbs when followed by verbal suffixes. And then reduplication or repetition is widely utilized in both systems to add the sense of repetition, continuity, and distribution. Okay. Mimetic expressions are relatively easy to identify in Japanese, which is kind of rare in world languages. Historically, in the regular part of Japanese vocabulary, P in morpheme initial position changed to H, as shown here in A. So piku to po became hiku. However, morpheme initial P has been retained in mimetic words to retain the important phonosemantic association between a stop sound and the sense of tension. Therefore, we can be certain that except for words introduced recently, words having P in initial position are all mimetic words. So general patterns observed for P initial mimetic expressions can then serve as guidelines for identifying ideophones in general in Japanese. Okay, so for instance, okay, please look at the phones in C here. Okay, so pata pata and D, actually D, poto poto. Okay, these are unambiguously mimetic because they have P initially. These forms have the accent on the initial syllable. Okay, now that is, there is a significant pitch fall after the initial syllable. So pata pata, poto poto. Okay. Now, in contrast, when you look at the expressions in E and F, okay, in the case of E, zoku zoku, there is no accent. It just keeps, the pitch keeps rising, zoku zoku. Okay. Now, if you look at F, naga naga, for a long time. In this case, the accent appears on the, you have to count the accent always from the back, generally speaking. So actually, the accent falls on the third syllable from the right end, from the end. Okay, so these two actually accent patterns, very prototypical patterns observed for regular vocabulary items in Japanese. So you can see that there are so difference, contrast between CD and EF. Okay. So in any case, we can consider E and F, consider E and F non-mimetic. Okay. Now, adopting this heuristic approach, we find that Japanese mimetic roots consist of highly iconic monosyllabic roots and more abstract disyllabic roots. Actually, I should point out that, you know, once you defined the area of study, once you define what the mimetic expressions, then, you know, then you can actually look into the features. Without looking at the, you know, defining the area first, you can't study the mimetics at all. And that has been the difficulty with many previous studies. Okay, anyway, Japanese mimetics, mimetic words consist of monosyllabic and disyllabic roots. Okay, so the examples in A, pan, ton, and gut are monosyllabic. And the examples in B, pata and chiku are disyllabic. Okay. So once the range of permissible data is thus delimited, sorting the data to identify the meanings of each sound in specific positions becomes also possible. So back when I was doing this research as a graduate student, I was applying the field method that I had learned. I collected mimetic expressions from various sources and sorted them using file boxes. Excel sheets were not available then, but this method had an advantage of being able to provide a three-dimensional view of the data, which Excel sheets would not be able to afford, as I will explain later. Okay, so here, okay, for each syllabic root, for example, I made 4 3x5 cards with the mimetic form. With the mimetic form, the meaning, and the context where it was used. Here I'm just simplifying the procedure by just looking at consonants. So as you can see, kocho, okay, I had to make 2 cards at least for consonants. And then in addition, actually, I would have to, you know, I had to make 2 more cards for the vowels. Okay, now that was the starting point. Okay, let me see. Okay, now then I used file boxes. Okay, so I sorted the cards by segment and position and placed them into file boxes like these. Okay, so here, Okay, let me just see. Okay. Okay. The front box has cards sharing initial consonants. And then the second box has cards sharing second consonants. Okay, so this was the way I sorted all the data. Okay, now this was a really tedious process, as you can imagine, but the method paid off. Previous studies had paid no attention to the distinction between monosyllabic and disyllabic roots or positional differences, and had made oversimplified assertions about phonosemantic associations. For instance, it was claimed that the velar stop K had the sense of hard object, and that the alveolar stop T had the sense of hitting. However, this proved to be only partially true and inaccurate in Japanese when the roots types and positions within roots were considered. My study revealed that monosyllabic and disyllabic roots exhibit distinct patterns of sound meaning associations, and that we have to consider the positions where the sounds appear in order to have a full picture of phonosemantic associations. So, however, before we move on, I would like to provide a brief review of Japanese phonetics and some terms necessary to continue the discussion. Here is a table of Japanese consonantal phonemes. The class, the students in the class would have seen something like this before. On the left, you will find the terms obstruents and resonants. Okay, and then obstruents are divided into stops, affricates, and fricatives. Resonants are divided into nasals and approximants. The order of these terms is very important. It reflects that consonants form a continuum from the most consonantal to the least consonantal. What do I mean by that? The consonants on the top involve, so PTK, okay, involve most obstruction of airflow. Stops involve complete blockage of airflow. Fricatives involve partial blockage, and affricates are a mixture of these two features. The consonants at the bottom do not involve significant blockage. Air continues to flow. However, in the case of nasals, the airflow in the oral cavity is blocked. Air freely flows through the nasal cavity. Okay. So again, the table shows that consonants form a continuum on the degree of air obstruction. The three top categories are jointly identified as obstruents because they involve a lot of obstruction. Okay. Then if you're to add vowels, e, u, and a to this table, where would you add them? Any idea? Okay. So I'll give you, okay, just 10 seconds or 5 seconds. Where would you add vowels to this consonantal chart? Okay, so here it is, okay? Here they are. In other words, sounds line up on a continuum from the more consonantal to the more vowel-like. Human languages make use of such a contrast between the more consonantal and the less consonantal in interesting ways. For instance, the core of a syllable tends to be formed by a member of the less consonantal categories at the bottom. The periphery of a syllable is filled by a member of the upper categories. Okay, so this will do for the moment. Just please remember the term obstruent. I will use it quite frequently in this lecture, and that is just a cover term. So, okay, now back to the structure of mimetic roots. Now this figure shows the semantic structure of a monosyllabic root, which typically has an obstruent in the initial position. Again, the term obstruent is the cover term for stops, affricates, and fricatives. An obstruent in the onset or the beginning of a monosyllabic root represents, along with the sense of weight marked by the voicing feature, both tactile and dynamic properties without clearly differentiating the two. Okay. So this is important, that they are not differentiated by the initial consonant contains the meaning of these things all at the same time. Okay. Now, here is an example of pan. P in its initial position means explosion of a tense or stretched surface. That it is the voiceless stop means that the object involved is light. In the middle adds the sense that a large or flat area is involved in the explosion. The last nasal means that the sound resonates. Thus, this mimetic expression is used to describe an explosion of a small balloon, for instance. What I want to emphasize is that P, again, in this form, imitates explosion as a whole, so it does not differentiate the tactile nature and the movement. Okay. Now, on the other hand, in disyllabic mimetic roots, an obstruent in initial position represents the tactile nature of an object along with the sense of weight, and an obstruent or liquid R in the second syllable represents the nature of the movement. Okay, so, and here is an example of bata. B in initial position means tense or stretched surface. That it is a voiced stop means the object involved is relatively heavy. T in the second syllable means that hitting is involved. The vowel R adds the sense that a large or flat area is involved in the movement. This mimetic expression is used to describe hitting of a flat surface with a flat, heavy object. So what I want to emphasize is that B in this form only refers to the tactile nature of the object. Okay, so this form does not have the sense of explosion. The two semantic components of the obstruent, tactile nature and the movement, are split and linked to two different positions. Okay. Identical consonants therefore mean different things depending on where they appear, as here. This table shows only the meanings of obstruents in the liquid R. Please look at the meanings of T, for instance. In monosyllabic roots, it means hitting a non-tense surface. But in disyllabic roots, it means a non-tense surface in initial position and hitting in the second syllable. Next, you can check the meaning of K, for example, in disyllabic roots. Notably, it means hard surface in initial position and up and down or in and out movement in the second position. Okay, so as a result, identical combinations of consonants in disyllabic roots create totally different meanings if they appear in reverse order. For instance, please look at A, okay, suku and kusu. Okay, so both contain identical, these contain identical consonants S and K, but their order is reversed. So they mean totally different things. Suku has S in initial position with the meaning of smooth surface, and K in the second syllable with the meaning of upward movement. So suku means growing vigorously. On the other hand, kusu has K initially and S in the second syllable. So it has a combined meaning of friction of a hard surface and is used to describe chuckling. The same observation can be made for toku and kotsu. Toku is used to describe the sound of liquid coming out of a bottle, as in tok, 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 tok. We hear that kind of expression from people, okay? But kotsu is used to describe hitting of a hard surface, as in kots, 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 kots. Okay. Let me see. Okay, the next one. So let's look at some more examples of how the two consonants contribute to the meaning. So actually more examples, like, let me see. Sorry. Before we look at specific ones, this sheet may be helpful. Professor Nakayama has provided the full sheet ahead of time. This is the bottom half of the sheet. Actually, I think he has provided the full sheet to the class. And this is the bottom half of the sheet. Not all combinations. Let me just actually go ahead and place the link to the sheet, just in case you want to look at it from, let me see. Can I do that now? Just a second. Okay, I think I have to go back to that page. Let me see, just a second. For those of you who are just, don't have the access to the full sheet, I'm just providing the link here.
Dr. Hamano,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is Naomi Fukumori. We've already shared your handout in chat.
Oh, you did? Great,
yes,
great.
Thank you so much.
So that's great. That's great. Okay, so in that case, going back to the bottom half of the page. Okay. Not all combinations exist, but many new forms are based on the associations identified here. And this will help you understand the basic meanings of many forms. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. For example, pata pata. Okay, so pata pata is a reduplicated form based on the root pata. Okay, can you guess the meaning? Okay, so please focus on the consonants first. Okay, so P, stretched surface and light object. Okay, so T, hitting. Then A, the vowel A, large surface. And reduplication means that the movement is repeated. So it describes this. Pata pata, okay? As in the case of hitting the surface of a desk or something with a fan, okay? A typical Japanese fan. Okay, now how about this one? Koto koto. Okay, so K, hard surface, T, hitting, O, small object. So it will be like this, koto, 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 koto. Okay, how about gata gata? Okay, now gata gata. G, hard, heavy object, T, hitting, A, flat, large area. So it's like when a large door is moving around, okay, moving actually. So and then kata kata, okay, this is like this, lighter door, kata 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 kata, okay. And then poto poto, okay, P means stretched surface, and T, hitting, O, small object. So it would be like poto poto poto, okay. Now, putsu putsu, what would that be? Okay, so P is stretched surface, T, hitting or coming into contact, and U, protrusion. So, okay, putsu putsu, making holes, for example. Okay. Now, buku buku, an object with a surface tension is indicated by B, and K is up and down movement. So this would be buku, buku. Air bubble is going up. Okay. Now, pota pota, P, surface tension. T means hitting. P means surface tension, T hitting, and O compact size, and A large size. So in this case, pota pota, okay, first there is a droplet and it drops and expands. Okay, so pota pota, pota pota. Now piku piku, P surface tension, K outward movement, and E thin object, U protrusion. So the combined effect is puku puku, as in when a buoy or something goes up and down on a tense surface. So koro koro, K light hard object, R fluid movement, O round object. So this would be koro koro. Okay, and then goro goro would be the counterpart where the object is large. So goro 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 goro. Okay. Now, so far, so we looked at semantic patterns that become clear when we divide mimetic roots into monosyllabic and disyllabic ones. Now dividing mimetic roots into these two types using three-dimensional file boxes had unexpected consequence in the discovery of phonological regularities. Let us examine more closely how my file boxes looked like using the example that we saw before. Okay. So as I said before, I was filing away all data systematically using boxes like these. Then one day I was struck by something quite unexpected and peculiar about this. Do you notice anything? Okay, so the front one, the labels in the front box, okay, P, PY, T, TY, S, SY, K, KY stand for the consonants in the onset of the initial syllable in disyllabic roots. Okay, for the moment, so I'm ignoring the voiced counterparts. And the labels in the back box, P, T, TY, S, SY, R, K stand for the consonants in the onset of the second syllable in disyllabic roots. Okay, so at issue is the distribution of palatalization. In Japanese, essentially all consonants can be palatalized, although there is a restriction as to which vowels are allowed. That is, only A, U, and O appear in palatalized syllables like these. So you would see that there is no PYI or PYE. Okay, it's basically pure syllables, in palatalized syllables allowed in Japanese. Although the vowels are restricted, actually the range of palatalized syllables in Japanese, a regular part of the Japanese language, is actually expansive. So you can create pya, bya, mya, cha, ja, sha, ria, nya, kya, gya. Okay. However, unlike in the regular part of Japanese, palatalization among mimetics has the meaning, first of all, okay, so let me just explain what the meaning of this palatalization is. So palatalization among mimetics has the meaning of childishness or uncontrolled energy. Okay. I call this type of palatalization expressive palatalization. Viewing the file boxes, I realized that the set of palatalized syllables for expressive palatalization is more restricted than the set of palatalized syllables allowed in Japanese in general. Okay? So no matter how many data sets I put into these boxes, the basic outlook did not change. In C1, that is the initial syllable, okay, the consonantal position of the initial syllable, most consonants could be palatalized, but not many palatalized combinations appeared in C2. Okay, so in the second syllable. In fact, only T and S can be palatalized in C2. I will use the term coronal to indicate these alveolar sounds because that is the standard way in the discussion of this issue in the literature. Now, basically, only coronal obstruents T and S, okay, can be palatalized in C2. This led me to closely examine the distribution of palatalization in mimetic expressions. Okay, so, and here is a summary of the constraints. While any consonant can combine with palatalization in the onset of monosyllabic mimetic roots. For disyllabic mimetic roots, stringent constraints on the distribution of palatalized syllables exist. First, palatalization cannot appear twice in a single root. That is, a mimetic root such as CYV, CYV, okay, does not exist as shown here, indicated by the star asterisk in the beginning. So this rules out expressions like pyokyo, pyokyo. In contrast, actually, in the basic vocabulary, if you look at just words like kyoryu, dinosaur contains kyo and ryu. So it's not impossible to pronounce Y twice in a word or in a sequence. So the permissible strings are either CY, VCV, like pyok. Let me just see. Okay, I think I have to go to the maybe. Okay, next one. Okay, so, oops, what's happening? I'm supposed to be able to see. Okay, yeah, okay. So the permissible strings are either CYV, CV, like pyoko, hyoro, chara, or CVCYV, like picha, pecha, kucha, kacha. Okay, so only one palatalization in a root and in either in the beginning, in the first or in the second syllable. Okay, now secondly, okay, coronals TD, actually T, probably I should say T, S, Z, and N can be palatalized either in the first syllable, like chala in A, okay, or in the second syllable, like B, kucha in B. So T can be palatalized in both positions. Okay, so you will see cha in A, you will see cha, shu, jo, nyo. And in B, you'd see cha, sha, ja, nya in the second position. Okay, but non-coronals may be palatalized only in the first syllable. Like, okay, let me just, okay, here, okay. Non-coronals may be palatalized only in the first syllable, like pyoko in C. So forms such as pokyo and dobyo, shown in D, okay, these are ruled out by this constraint. They cannot happen in Japanese mimetics. Also, non-coronals can be palatalized only in the absence of a coronal. So forms as, such as kyuta and kyasa, okay, in E are ruled out. Okay. The liquid, furthermore, the liquid R behaves as if it is not a coronal. Okay. So first, it cannot be palatalized in the second syllable. There is no form such as koryo in mimetics. Okay. I mean, in Japanese, I mean, in the regular vocabulary, as I said, for example, koryo, consideration, contains ryo in the second syllable. Okay. Now, furthermore, Okay. R does not block the palatalization of a non-consonant, non-coronal in the first syllable. So hyoro is okay. Okay. In other words, if this, R was like any other coronal, then hyo should not be palatalized. It should have been R that is palatalized, but that's not happening here. So this discovery was later discussed in various phonological frameworks. Among the best known was Mester and Ito's okay, who considered palatalization as an auto-segmental morpheme and tried to theoretically capture the unique features of coronal liquid R. Okay, so according to Mester and Ito, at most one so-called auto-segmental palatalization morpheme, here marked as Y on the top, okay, in the white square, okay, that is specified. So palatalization is specified at the base once per root. Okay, so the root actually at the base, Y is just simply floating. Okay, and then the process of derivation, Y docks onto a specific consonant. So how does it work? When you look at the second square, okay, the palatalization morpheme scans the word root from the right or from the back, okay, and docks onto the coronal sound. So in the case of kata, okay, Y scans where it can land on, and it's from the back of the word, back of the root. So when it sees T, it is T and Y join together, and it produces kacha. Okay, it's a kind of very neat explanation for sure. Okay, and then taka. Okay, in the case of taka plus Y floating somewhere originally, Y scans taka starting from the right end, and then it goes to, okay, K, but K is not a palatal, and then skips that and then goes to the left, and it sees T, so now it lands on that and produces a palatalized syllable cha. Okay, how about poko? In the case of poko, Y scans this from the right side, right end. K is not a palatalizable consonant, it's a velar, so it skips it and it goes to P. P is not palatalized, actually not coronal, but because it's at the end of the root, so it has to land somewhere, and it lands on this syllable. I'm sorry, this consonant, and it becomes pyoko. Okay. Now, in the case of koro, okay, it skips R, okay, although it is a coronal, and then lands on K. Okay. Now, how about dosa? In the case of dosa, this one contains two coronals, D and S. But because the scanning takes place from the end, so as soon as it sees S, it's palatalized and it becomes dosha, and it's not josha or something. Okay, so that's the basic mechanisms that they employed in order to explain the range of data. Okay, now, however, okay, this kind of analysis is neat, but there are cases that do not work with Mester and Ito's framework, like shana. Okay, so in the case of shana or shanari, okay, this one has N and S, but instead of N palatalized, it becomes shana. Okay, so so it is not that the basic form is scanned from the right, actually. Okay, The requirement for scanning to take place from the right was motivated by the need to account for dosa, as you might remember from my brief explanation, the rightmost one, okay? Now, if a different explanation is possible for dosa, we can do away with the scanning mechanism, okay? So what makes more sense is the addition of constraint 3 here. Palatalization selects A over O and U. This can account for dosha, okay, first of all, okay, because A is favored to O. So instead of creating josa, it becomes dosha, okay? Now, in the case of, okay, shana, what it accounts for, what is at issue is, okay, okay, constraint 4. Okay, constraint 4 says palatalization must not occur on consonants other than the left end of the root. So these constraints, current framework actually in phonology is basically constraint-based rather than a mechanism like scanning from the right or something like that, right or left. So the combined effects of these constraints create these, explain actually all these varied data. So I will not go into further details of this analysis here. In any case, this shows that mimetic words form a continuous domain with the general lexicon and they are subject to phonological constraints, although not identical to the rest of the language. These constraints have nothing to do with sound symbolism, actually. So palatalization can, for example, appear in the initial syllable as in pyoro, or in the second syllable as in gocha. As I have said before, there is a phonetic symbolic differentiation between the initial syllable, initial consonant and the second consonant, actually. Okay. However, where palatalization appears in a root has no effect on the meaning of palatalization. So in other words, palatalization is a sound symbolic meaning, but its distribution is independent of the sound symbolic meaning of palatalization. Mimetic roots words are not curious oddities, but they are very systematic and are linguistically constrained, if not in the same manner as non-expressive part of the language. Okay, so now having discovered these phonological constraints, I then started to look at phonological characteristics of mimetic words much more carefully. One other notable pattern concerns the voicing of obstruents in intervocalic position of disyllabic roots. This turned out to be quite interesting. So, okay. But what am I talking about when I say voicing of obstruents? Okay, so once more, let's look at the table that we used before. Please pay attention to the fourth column, okay? So voiceless, voiced, okay? This marks which sound is prototypically voiced or voiceless, okay? So do you notice anything? Okay, voiceless, voiced, voiceless, voiced, voiceless, voiced, 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 okay? Notice that obstruents or sounds that appear in the upper portion of the table can either be voiceless or voiced. On the other hand, vowels are prototypically voiced. So this again, forms, the sounds form a sort of continuum, okay? And they contrast prototypically at the top, items at the top and the bottom actually prototypically contrast. So by the way, one easy way to tell which sound is voiced and which sound is voiceless voiceless is this. So I would like you to, okay, do this, okay? Now say s, s, okay, everybody, s, s, okay? Now say z, z, okay? Now do this now while tightly capping your ears with your hands, okay? So I'll do this, okay? Say s, and say z. Okay, you have to do that very, capping your ears, okay, closely. Okay, did you notice? Did you notice the buzzing that you with with z? Okay, now when you pronounce z, okay, you hear the effect of voicing at the vocal cords. Okay, when we cap your ears, when you are, not listening through the air, you hear the noise from the, conducted through the bones. So that's the sound you hear, and that's actually the effect of voicing. Okay, now pronounce ah and see. Okay, tell me if actually you can tell if it is a voice sound or voiceless sound typically. Okay, which one? Voiced, right? Okay, so much for the phonetics of the phonetics for the moment. So please just remember that obstruents can be either voiced or voiceless. So P, B, T, D, K, G, and so on. Okay, now having established what is voicing, I now move on to the issue of voicing of obstruents in mimetic roots. Now, first, obstruent voicing is allowed only once per root, as in giku. Okay, so gigu is not allowed in Tokyo Japanese. Okay. Second, voicing of obstruents is generally limited to root initial position. So obstruents between two vowels are voiceless. Okay, so pada is not allowed. Okay. Okay. Interestingly, labial obstruents between two vowels do not observe these constraints. They are voiced and allow another voiced obstruent. Okay. In order to account for this irregularity, I resorted to the historical explanation. It is well known that the labial stop P underwent a process called the weakening of labials in the regular vocabulary of Japanese. Okay, so while initially it became H, as we have briefly seen before. For instance, present-day hana, okay, hana, okay, flower would have been pana. P became H, and pana became hana. So my name, for example, would have been Pamano in the past. Okay. The most important part of the weakening process for our current discussion is when the labial stop is flanked by two vowels. Speech sounds tend to be influenced by surrounding sounds. When P is surrounded by vowels, it often becomes B or a fricative version of wa, okay? And it may further become wa, W. So apazu without meeting is considered to have become abazu and awazu and awazu, okay? Interestingly, in the mimetic stratum, the labial obstruent between vowels also succumbed to the pressure from the general weakening process, but it retained the stop feature, that is, it stopped short of becoming a fricative. This was apparently in order to safeguard the phonosemantic association between the labial stop and the meaning of explosion. So japu did not become jau, it became jabu, okay? Now I'm going to discuss the significance of the distinction between monosyllabic and disyllabic root again. The distinction between monosyllabic and disyllabic roots proves to be critical in understanding the phonosemantic association as well as phonological constraints on mimetic roots. It is also significant in understanding how the semantics of mimetics are extended. Okay. So disyllabic mimetic words occur with a very small set of verbs. Because the second consonant's movement-related semantics constrains the range of allowable verbs. Now, on the other hand, okay, monosyllabic mimetic words occur with a wide variety of verbs. So, for instance, okay, while both paka and pa can describe some type of opening, the range of verbs that paka can co-occur is severely restricted. It can only be used with verbs describing opening or breaking. Okay. This situation, I argue, is largely due to the second consonant K, which has the meaning of up, down, or in, out movement. Okay. Now, compared to this, pa can be used with a far greater range of verbs than that of paka. It is used to describe instantaneous opening, instantaneous diffusion or separation of things or people, or instantaneous expansion of vision, instantaneous spreading of a light source, instantaneous extinction, instantaneous entrance into view or opening of vision, instantaneous change of gaze, instantaneous change of position, instantaneous completion of an action or change of situation, and rapid completion of an action or instant. Okay. So these observations resolve the paradox that monosyllabic roots, many of which imitate sounds, end up becoming degree adverbs such as zatto, approximately. Okay, originally that was actually zatto, but it has become, is now accentless, and it is zatto, approximately. Kitto, surely. Okay. Originally, so the accent would have been kitto, okay? But now it is kitto, and it has become just a degree adverbial, surely. And then gutto, considerably, zutto, okay? So monosyllabic roots are far less constrained by metaphors based on movement images, okay? So, okay, now I will briefly talk about Japanese and Korean ideophones. Okay, so, okay. Korean ideophones consist of much more varied structures than Japanese ideophones. The hallmarks of Korean ideophones are consonant mutation and vowel ablaut. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, for instance, in A, okay, using, okay, so there are three forms, paltak and then paltak and then paltak. Okay, so all of them are related to the basic meaning of jerking, but in the plain case, it is simply if the consonants are plain, okay, not marked by the these extra marks. Okay, it's just jerking. But if it has the tense versions, okay, then jerking with energy, and then if they are aspirated, okay, then jerking swiftly. So in other words, in the case of the second one, okay, the extra element, okay, tense version means energy, whereas in the case of the aspirated one, there is a sense of some airiness. Okay. Now in B, okay, so this is vowel ablaut cases, and tall long, okay, sound of a large bell, as opposed to tal lang, sound of a small bell. So in the case of, this is a slightly peculiar part of Korean, but in the case of high vowels, slightly high vowels in this case, okay, high vowels tend to indicate largeness, okay, size, large, or volume, okay. Now, in the case of the low vowels, okay, okay, they tend to indicate smallness, okay. So anyway, so that's a basic pattern, okay, very basic patterns in Korean mimetics. Okay, now these processes also turn ordinary words into idiophonic prosodic words in Korean. So for example, saran, saran, I think maybe I'm making a mistake actually, it should be saran hara. Okay, Sara, not N, okay? So to love and becomes, if it is, it has a stressed tense version of S, okay, so as opposed to, again, to love very much in a humorous context, okay? And then krita, to stink, okay? To stink a lot. Okay, so H has a sense of a lot of air or something. Okay, now Nora, yellow, Nuro, okay, dark yellow. Okay, so high vowels indicate darkness or heaviness or heaviness. Okay, so anyway, okay, so the features of those derived ideophones naturally contain non-iconic and unpredictable elements. So disyllabic ideophones in Korean are very different from Japanese mimetic expressions, okay? However, Japanese and Korean monosyllabic ideophones resemble each other when we look at the phonosemantic associations of the initial consonants. For example, in both languages, in the initial position of monosyllabic roots, P has the recurrent sense of extension of a tensely stretched surface, while T has the sense of hitting and S, hitting, and S, the sense of moving over a smooth surface. Okay, so they share similar features as far as monosyllabic expressions are concerned. Okay, now in addition, okay, this is the more interesting part. Okay, very interestingly, Japanese disyllabic mimetic roots having R in the second syllable are very similar to Korean monosyllabic roots, roots that have L in the coda. Okay, so at the end, okay, as in like poro poro in Japanese, buru buru, bura bura, tsuru tsuru, choro choro. Okay, now Korean has pal pal or tal, tol tal, tul tol, sol sal, sul sol, and so on. Okay, so these are very similar. Okay, okay. All of these depict various fluid movements such as rolling, trembling, running, and flowing. Okay, and more importantly, okay, so Korean monosyllabic mimetic roots that have L at the end has this semantic structure on the left side, okay, which is very similar to the disyllabic root structure in Japanese. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, on the left side. Okay, so that's the Korean expression having L at the end. Okay, the initial consonant relates to the tactile nature in general. Okay, and then the second L, second consonant in the coda position, okay, means movement, fluid movement, okay. And Okay, so then when you look at the right side, okay, you will see this is the Japanese structure, Japanese disyllabic root structure. Just for the moment, you can ignore the meanings of the vowels. You will see that the initial consonant relates to tactile nature, and then the second consonant relates to the movement. So when you look at these two structures, you notice that the similarity is actually stark. Okay. Now, I don't think I have the time to discuss this in detail, but my hypothesis is that these languages historically share the same monosyllabic mimetic roots with a nasal or stop in the coda in the very beginning. Okay, and the coda final L was later added. This remained the basic core of imitative mimetics in Korean. In Japanese, L-ending ones were reanalyzed as CV-RV forms, possibly with the development of disyllabic mimetic roots. Okay. Okay. So some takeaways from this lecture, I hope. Okay. Now, I hope that I have convinced you that Japanese mimetic words are very intricately and linguistically structured with phonological and semantic constraints. I also hope that you will learn mimetics as a system. Specifically, monosyllabic and disyllabic roots should be separated. Okay. Now, initial consonants in I hope that you remember that initial consonants in monosyllabic mimetic roots imitate physical phenomena. Okay. And they are not, analytically treated. Actually, they depict or imitate the event as a whole in a way. Okay. Now, disyllabic mimetic roots are more analytic. Root initial consonants in disyllabic mimetic roots are related to the texture of the involved objects. Onset consonants in the second syllable, on the other hand, that is in disyllabic mimetic roots, okay, related to the movement of the involved object. So disyllabic roots are more linguistically constrained, though they certainly retain iconic associations. Okay. To me, actually, it's positional differentiation is really significant linguistically because language depends on this kind of positional differentiation. The same thing does not mean the same thing in different positions. And that's actually the hallmark of language as a whole. Without this capacity of differentiating positions, we won't have language. So in a sense, this shows the kind of the beginning of a prototypical feature of language in a way. Okay, so finally, Japanese is not the only language that has extensive ideophonic vocabulary. Western European languages, which are poor in the ideophonic repertoire, are rather exceptions. Of the many ideophonic systems, very few have been as closely studied as Japanese, unfortunately. And even in Japanese, serious studies have been largely limited to Tokyo Japanese. So I hope that some of you will get interested enough in mimetics to do systematic research in one of these many languages and their dialects that have extensive ideophonic vocabulary. Thank you for listening. And finally, if you are interested, here are some sample reading materials. Thank you very much.